Hello. I think I could be doing better.
Well, that will always be true because you are never done. So you are always in a state of becoming. If you're making that statement from the upper half of the emotional scale, like eager anticipation, looking forward to something, then you're flowing with your inner being. If you are self-critical when you make that statement, feeling guilty or ashamed or inadequate, then not so good. But it's a nice thing to accept that there's always going to be more becoming. That's why we start most gatherings by asking you or by talking about taking thought beyond that which it has been before. And you cannot take thought beyond without taking yourself beyond. In other words, you're always expanding. You are always becoming more.
I do really well a lot of the time. And I'm starting to feel, as I've experienced your teachings and integrated them and started to use some of the tools, that I'm safe in the arms of my inner being. I'm starting to really feel that I am safe. Sometimes I'll have clients that I'm working with and they cancel, and all of a sudden I do the knee-jerk thing. I'm like,
but before you go there, we want to talk, because your inner being is never holding you safe in a protective stance.
Okay.
Because your inner being never sees you as vulnerable. Your inner being is always a joyful dance partner with you, not a protector.
Great discernment.
It's an important discernment, because once you get that, then you don't feel like if you lose connections, you're not safe, because it wasn't your connection with your inner being that made you safe to begin with. In other words, well-being just is. Things are always working out for you. The analogy that connects with most people, it's the easiest one to hear, is imagine a cork bobbing on the surface of the water. Hold the cork deliberately under the water. That's what negative emotion is. But in the moment that you let go of whatever it is that is causing you to feel negative, that cork will bob right back to the surface. You don't have to push it up. Your inner being doesn't have to drag it up. It's a natural consequence of who you are and what your true trending really is. Your true trending is in those upper vibrations, and unless you are focused otherwise. So it's like you say, a client cancels, or something gets you focused upon shortage of some kind or something, and that's you taking hold of that cork and holding it right under the water. And for the time that you're doing that, you're not feeling good. But it's not because your inner being isn't in full awareness of you. It's not because something has gone wrong. It's just your perception has shifted to a place that you are not allowing the frequencies of the wholeness of who you are. That's all.
So I could experience that, go ahead and feel whatever I feel, and then start choosing better feeling thoughts.
That's always the way that it happens when you think about it. In other words, even if you don't know what we're talking about here, the usual response is you complain it out, you vent it out, you cry it out, and then you get some sleep. And you feel better once your focus changes. And so you can imagine how good it can get when you are able to change the focus deliberately.
Oh, I can imagine. Yes.
And so what we're encouraging, for a long time, we called that the process of pivoting. When you catch yourself feeling bad and you're aware of why you're feeling bad, say to yourself, well, I know what I don't want. What is it that I do want? And if you catch it early enough, you can change that trend. These days, what we're saying, which is a more productive, more steadying, more of the time situation, is we say stay out ahead of it, or get out ahead of it, which means do your positive trending before you need it. Because when you do your positive trending before something has caused you to focus negatively, even though something happens that may have ordinarily caused you to trend negatively, or maybe even is getting your goat a little bit, it's much more likely for you to bounce back quickly if that's the way you've been trending. Yes. has a very funny friend. She met her. She was a comedian on a cruise ship. And they spend quite a bit of time together through telephone or in person when they can. And her friend says, my grandmother always said, put your goat in the backyard. And most people didn't know what she meant. But we say, don't let people yank your chain, and don't let people push your button, and don't let people get your goat. Well, her grandmother didn't say, don't let people get your goat. She just said, put your goat in the backyard. Put your goat in the backyard. And so
like a softer approach.
Just don't leave yourself out there vulnerable, which sort of starts where we started here today. Don't care so much about what people who are not deliberate about what they think. People think and say whatever comes to mind. Very few people deliberately trend. Very few people deliberately establish their point of attraction. And that's why most people are living all over the place. They don't seem to know that they have any control over their own point of attraction. But once you start realizing the absolute correlation between what you're thinking and what you're speaking and how you're feeling and what's coming to you, after a while, you get better and better and better at not letting yourself get too far into negative trending. Yeah.
I don't need to.
You don't need to, you don't like to, you don't want to. Why do it? It's a habit of thought. And a habit of thought, that's what a belief is. It's just a thought that you continue to think. But when we say, we think there's a good and powerful leading edge moving forward distinction here when we say the difference between you get what you think about what And a belief is a thought that you continue to think, because a lot of times people think when we say that, well, I may have beliefs that aren't working for me, and they worry about those beliefs. But when we say trending, when we say trend in the direction of what feels good, which means choose in the direction of what feels good, because you can change your belief patterns on anything and everything. And that would be a really good thing for most humans to do. You have some of the wonkiest beliefs. You may not believe this, but there are people who think that they've been sent here to prove worthiness that they already hold. There are some people who think that God or Jesus or whatever deity they've decided to define as that non-physical energy is holding them captive, and that if they don't jump through these hoops in just this way, that then they are in trouble with source energy that is only love, that has not the capacity to hate or push against. It could not be more confused. But humans come up with this stuff because they've been calibrating to other humans, and then they get together, and as calibrated to the lower half of the emotional scale, disconnected, cork under the water, not tuned in, tapped in, turned on humans, they come to agreements about what a vengeful God would feel about them in their unworthiness. And we say, you got to get over that. A lot of people are not going to get over that till they croak. And when they croak, it's always such a party. When they realize, oh, I had that wrong.
That was so dumb.
It's nothing even like that. It's nothing even like that. You mean all along when I felt good, that was a good thing? Who knew? Who knew? I was trained to believe that if it felt good, don't go near it. Don't go near it, they say. So you just if we were standing in any of your physical shoes, we would trend in the direction of what feels good, and we would understand that trending in the direction of what feels good is following the path of least resistance. And we would understand that following the path of least resistance is the same thing as following the path of most allowance. And we would understand the path of most allowance to what? To source, to wholeness, to who you are. It's simple. It's simple. And in every moment of every day, you have these two parts of you, these two aspects of you. It's really you, but it's two different perspectives of you. Your inner being's perspective, who always trends toward love and well-being.
Joy.
And then the part of you who is physically focused, who might be trending otherwise because you got started by calibrating to what other humans think who are not feeling so good. And there's nothing like hanging around with somebody who doesn't feel good before you start trending that way. Takes a lot of focus, doesn't it? Yeah. Enough? Really good. Right here.
Don't forget to leave a positive message and subscribe.